Hello, boys and girls. We are back with another edition of the SoulCast. I'm your host, Scott, aka Zhang, on the boards, of course. So, for this episode, we're going to be taking a look at Tira, who, I have to apologize. This is a character that won Evo last year. I'm just now getting to her, which is, a little crappy, I guess. But it is what it is. Just trying to get through this list of characters as we can. But Shining Decapon, as far as I know, is still playing and still using Tira, still doing very well. So, of course, that's always good. It means that she's still relevant, at least somewhat. So, with that being said, my guest for this episode is Saltface GA. Now, this episode is gonna have a little bit of a weird format because there was actually a recording error. We got disconnected on Skype, and for whatever weird reason, the recording program decided to record over what we had already recorded when we got our connection back. So for the first like 15-20 minutes or so got recorded over. Fortunately, 45 or so minutes still got recorded, so you'll still hear plenty from him. But unfortunately, we missed that first little bit. Now, rather than wait a week and try to re-record that, get our schedules in line a little bit, I did take notes during that little segment. I would say I'm a little surprised at how much we got through in such a short amount of time. But again, rather than waiting and just doing that little bit over again, I figured that I would just put it out there what we talked about and kind of set up for what you will hear from him, and all the rest that we actually did get captured and recorded. So with that being said, I'm just going to try to rifle through this real quick so that you don't have to listen to me. You can listen to him. He's from Georgia, obviously. Plays Tira. It sounds like he is a character specialist, so he's always played Tira. But yeah, again, you'll hear more from him, and I just a full disclosure, a lot of this stuff, it's from him. It's not my strategies. It's just the notes that I took from him. And if anybody, feels the need to correct any of this, if I got any of it wrong, I did try to go over it and fact check myself. So hopefully I got everything right and didn't miss a whole lot. I'm sure he'll jump in if I miss something there in the thread once I put this up. But that being said, so Tira. So the first place to start is her stances. Obviously, she has two stances: a jolly stance and a gloomy stance. Now, gloomy is widely considered the better stance. It's far easier to be aggressive in gloomy, and she does more damage. And most players will tell you that the goal, and even Shiny Dekapon, if you watch him play, or if you listen or read people's analysis of his play, he mostly uses Jolly just as a way to get into Gloomy, since you have to start in Jolly. But that's really the whole purpose, is to find your way into Gloomy. And that's not to say that Jolly is bad, of course, but Gloomy is just the better stance, or at least it's widely considered the better stance. Now, just some minor, or not minor differences, but one of the reasons that Gloomy is better than Jolly is, like I said, it's an aggressive stance and it does more damage. And one of the easiest ways to see this and to see how it's exemplified is just using basic moves that you have in both stances, like a 2A and a 6B. Now, both of these pokes are staples in your gameplay. You're going to be using them a lot, but in Gloomy, they do more damage. And it's just kind of the nature of the stance. You're going to get more damage. You're going to get more reward for the moves that you do in Gloomy. Now, you'll always have that at your disposal, but the goal, of course, is to get into Gloomy. So how do you do that? Now, the best way, seemingly, to do that is the taunt, which is B plus K. Now, even though you can use this to get into Gloomy, you don't always have to. The taunt does take a moment to come out, and you can cancel it, by just doing a move, guard, whatever. So you can kind of use that as a mind game, because of course, if the person you're playing against knows Tira, they don't want you to get into Gloomy. They want you to stay on Jolly, and that way they can minimize their risk while they're playing against you. So you can sort of use that as a Yomi mind game by canceling the taunt and attacking if they're coming in. And Saltface actually used the example of Shining Decapon, that he did this during Evo, and it got to a point where he was so successful at predicting when they were going to attack, and being rewarded for that, that most people just let him do it. They didn't even try to challenge the taunt, just let him get in the Gloomy, and then went from there. Now, along with that, as the Tira player, you do have to constantly be watching for the transitions between the moods, because they're actually random. Now, Saltface mentioned that before the big patch, that it actually wasn't completely. There were some moves that would always go into Gloomy, or vice versa. They would always transition between the moods, but now it seems that all of her moves, I believe, are have a chance to transition rather than being a guaranteed transition. So since this is kind of random, as the tier player, you are going to have to watch out for that. You're going to have to make sure that you pay attention, because it will change the way that you go on from there, especially in combos. Like, your options to continue the combo are actually going to change if you happen to randomly stance transition. And a great example of that would be 4K, which has a chance to move you back and forth. So there's actually a list of all of the transitions on in the Soul Arena if you wanted to check those out. Of course, probably the favorite move, I think, for most players, and Saltface mentioned this as his preferred method as well, is Brave Edge 236K. It has a really high chance to transition you into Gloomy. So it's really good low, does decent damage really fast. Don't believe you can see it, and he actually mentioned that. And as a result, it gets you the knockdown. So it does kind of everything that you want it to do if your whole goal is to get into Gloomy. A plus B is another honorable mention. It actually has a built-in GI, although that's the only time that it transitions. So if you're having trouble with maybe some pressure, and I believe it just GI's mids, if I remember correctly, when he said that. But it does have an auto GI, and if you're successful with the GI, it has the chance to switch on that. Now, let's say that you are having a problem getting into Gloomy, or just at the start of the match, you're automatically in Jolly, so you have to know how to play in Jolly. So it's mostly going to be good for poking. So basic stuff like AA, BB, the 2A and the 6B that I mentioned before, which are in both stances. 2B, 2K, 3K. You also have 2B, which is probably going to be mostly a whiff thing. Then you have 1B, 66K, 22A, 22K, 22B, 66B, 44K. Just a lot of pokey stuff that's not going to give you huge reward, and you do have to play safer as a result. So that's the reward is going to reflect that, of course. And you got to play the spacing game. If you're going to get some damage, chances are it's going to be on whiff, and there are some frame traps that you can use with stuff like 6B, 2A, and what have you. Let's see. Yeah, if you do manage to, hit something on whiff, don't expect a lot of damage. It's just the way that it's going to be when you're in Jolly, and it's actually one of the big issues with Jolly. But part of the this whole theme, or this whole idea of getting from Jolly into Gloomy, actually does present its own problem to Jolly, aside from just your the generic generic areas that I was just mentioning, like safety and stuff like that, or big damage, or what have you. Because your opponent is likely going to know that your goal is going to be to get into Gloomy, there are certain matchups that become hard as a result, because you need time, you need breathing space to get in to Gloomy, and then go on the offense from there. So just some examples that Saltface had given. Ivy she's gonna hurt because she's obviously really good at harassing at range. Any fast pressure characters, so Mitsu, Natsu are good examples. They present the same issue since they don't want to give you that breathing space. They want it, and just part of their regular gameplay is to be up in your face and have that pressure non-stop. So that's one of the reasons that it's usually wise to play the safe spacing game, poke a bunch until you have enough meter to do 2 through 6K Brave Edge, and then hopefully that will get you into Gloomy. Now, when you're in Gloomy, you do have a lot of options at your disposal. So for pressure, you have stuff like 6-6A or 2-2B, which both do good guard break damage. And one of her best characteristics is her tech trap in 666B Brave Edge, which she can do off I believe all of her juggles and other knockdowns as well. So it's a really good catch as according to Soulface. Once you get the timing down, it's fairly easy to do. And just in general, her Brave Edges in Gloomy are very good. I already mentioned 236K Brave Edge, and now that's not just in Jolly. You can do that in Gloomy as well, but she also has the 3A Brave Edge. So just something to keep in mind. Most of the time, though, because her Brave Edges are so good, you're usually going to be saving the meter for her Brave Edges rather than her CE. Although you can use the CE in certain guaranteed situations for the damage, the guaranteed damage such as punishing, and of course, GI as you need to. But for the most part, you're going to be doing the Brave Edges, especially 666B Brave Edge. Let's see some other good moves in Gloomy that were mentioned. 6A is good in general and can also be used as a sort of a frame trap. 1K is good. 1A, 1B, 3-3B is good for whiff punishing. 4-4K is great, as is its counterpart 6-6K. Basic A and BB, of course. 4K, 4A. 4A especially for knockdowns. I'm not sure if our recording caught that part, but I do ask about 4A. 3K is also great. And then, of course, you have the 2A and the 6B. Now, at this point, I'm going to let the recording pick up where it started. And I was actually asking more specifically about launchers. So where we are going to pick up from is I had just asked about the 4B just frame string. So, yes, I will let it pick up from there and enjoy.
Is 4B one of those moves where you have to connect in order to continue the just frames? Like if they block it, will it automatically stop or can you keep doing it?
Oh, you can keep going with the just frames,
Okay.
but like I said, the risk is the more you do it, the more unsafe the string will become.
Okay.
To the point, if you complete it all the way, you're going to be like minus 18, which that's a big punish that's about to happen if it's blocked.
Gotcha. So is that something that you find yourself using all that often because of the risk on it? Or I don't know, are you setting up like whiff punishes with it or how are you trying to fit that in?
Actually, where I use 4BBB more is if my opponent A whiffs something pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm actually close enough to execute that, or if I'm in the middle of a really big wall combo, then I'm going to use that to continue the wall combo.
Yeah.
Which Tira has a nasty wall combo, but the thing is, with her, and she actually has a death combo with using the wall. But the only problem is with her death combo, you're gonna need at least 2 meters, and then you're gonna need the wall obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
then you actually need a tech trap to work properly to get Tira's death combo.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we can actually move on to the wall, but before we do, was there anything else out of Gloomy that's notable that
Yes,
you like to use?
3AA
3AA.
is very good. It's a 14 frame startup move,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously you see that's the one where she does the hula hoop
Uh-huh.
around herself. Now, Brave Edge version does a lot of damage. Does like 70 off the bat
Interesting.
by itself, 70 damage. And that move right there, if you angle your opponent properly, that's what's used for wall combos, for your really big wall combos
Gotcha.
in Gloomy. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Now, is this do you use that a lot for like anti-sidestep or anything like that?
Yes, it can be used for anti-sidestep,
Okay.
and let's say let's say you want to punish something kind of hard, but 3B isn't fast enough. You can use that instead.
Gotcha. Okay, now I randomly just did a move that looks pretty cool. 4A. Does that have any application? Is that any good?
Yes.
Okay.
What that's going to be used for, that's also an anti-sidestep move.
Hmm.
And you see how far it launches your opponent back.
Yeah.
What you can use that for, you can bring your opponent out with that pretty easily if
Nice.
the ring outs to their back.
Nice.
And what you can do off of that, you got different options you can do for follow up. Let's say, for example, you just want to go for the damage,
Hmm.
which you can run up and do 666B or 666B Brave Edge.
Hmm.
Or let's say you want you want to get a little damage, but then you want positioning more, like you want to be in their face, for example.
Hmm.
After you're hitting a 4A, you can then go into 2A plus B immediately. You'll hit them, and then with your opponent on the floor, you're going to be immediately on top of them. You can continue pressure.
All right. All right. Now, what about 4K? Do you use that outside? Just out of curiosity, do you use that outside of juggles at all?
The only purpose I have for using 4K is mainly for really tight punishes against certain characters, like maybe like Alacia, Natsu.
Hmm.
For example, since they have really fast, very safe moves. I said that's a 12 frame startup move, and in Gloomy, it'll knock your opponent down, and you can get a combo follow up,
Hmm.
which is the 66B. Basically, you get some good damage on it. Now, Jolly, if you were to use 4K, it's random what will happen, because normally in Jolly she'll hold her head, she'll say like "owie,"
Uh-huh.
but randomly at times in Jolly, when you hit a 4K, she'll actually transform to Gloomy, and you can do a combo follow up from there, which is normally a 66B, or you could use 3AA.
Interesting.
Oh, and here's another notable move. I'm remembering all these now.
Okay.
Okay, 22A
Hmm.
and Jolly and Gloomy. That's also a pretty good move to use.
All right.
Let's say for example, what that'll do, if you use that move in Jolly, you have different choices what you can do. Well, go for a little mix up gimmick, for example.
Mhm.
You can hit that move and like go for a throw or something. And that's actually a spot where I use 236K at, is right there when hitting that move. Because I can mix in a throw, which it's a 50-50 anyway,
Mhm.
trying to break throw, or I can just hit them low with a 236K. Or option three, after hitting a 2-2A, you go for 4K, which is a headbutt.
Mhm.
In like you said in Jolly, what will happen is if she doesn't transform, she'll hold her own head in pain.
Mhm.
But if she transforms off of a hit like that, off of 2-2A and then 4K, she transforms to Gloomy, then it's a free 3B to a full combo follow up.
Interesting. That's a lot of damage.
Oh yeah, and people say Nightmare hits hard, right?
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. All right. Any others that you're remembering?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Here's another move to use. This is in the Jolly state here. This
Okay.
is like I'm trying to name you her step killer moves.
Hmm.
Because like all the moves I named you, they were pretty vertical, linear moves, but you're gonna need some step killers in there.
Okay.
Okay, 66AA and Jolly, that's gonna be your main step killer. Now the problem with this move is on block, it's very punishable on block. You're like -20, very bad on block. So only use that because normally what you're gonna use it for, you're probably only gonna do just the 66A, just to play it safe to kill a step.
Hmm.
Unless you know you're gonna hit your opponent with this, don't normally follow up with a second hit. For your own safety, pretty much.
All right.
And then let's see, 44A can also be used as a step killer from a certain range. And you have different options here. You can do 4-4A to 2A, which she'll hit you high and then low. Or you could do 4-4A, which will go high and then mid. There's basically a little mix up in there.
Interesting. Now, one thing I did notice is that her 2A in Jolly is actually it's a legitimate low, whereas in Gloomy it's the more generic S low, the special low. Now, do you find that to be really useful? Because I mean, I can only imagine a 2A that's that fast and has that much range is pretty good low.
It's very useful especially when you distance it properly, because it's very you obviously see it's very hard to see coming. You gotta really know that's coming and to react to that accordingly. Now the only problem is, like I said, on block it's very unsafe if your opponent blocks that, and that's basically the trend with Jolly. Why people say Jolly's not that good. She has some decent moves in Jolly, but a lot of them are unsafe. And she's very punishable. Now your best bet in Jolly, let's say for like an harassment tool, for range, 2-2B. It's only like -2 on block. It's very good to use, especially from a range.
Gotcha.
Like you're gonna use that a lot, actually, when you're in Jolly. Because let's say you hit that move, for example. Now you're plus a good bit of frames. You can set something up off of that. Like you could go immediately to 6-6 AA if your opponent tries to sidestep out of there afterwards. That's a free counter hit. Or you could do something like if your opponent, you getting them to hold still, 2-3-6K Brave Edge. You can throw it out there, like for example, to get into Gloomy. After that move hits, basically you could create a mix-up game.
Interesting. Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask while I'm thinking about it, because we were kind of talking about the 4K for type punishes, and then obviously 3B is going to be a big punishing tool as well. Does she have any other like quick punishes outside of like your standard BB or whatever or AA?
Well, the other main one is going to be your critical edge, of course, which it's a 13 frame critical edge. Which, honestly, you're not going to use Tira's critical edge too much. Because, in my opinion, and a lot of people will tell you, Tira's meter attacks with Brave Edge, they're just too good. They're way too good to use. Compared to, just using a critical edge.
Gotcha.
It's like, look at the damage you get off a normal combo to the critical edge, for example. Using only half the meter. It's just not worth it at times,
Gotcha.
Unless like the critical edge are going to kill, then yes, do it. Because you can use that for range punishes.
Gotcha. Now, just your regular like punishing situations, do you normally just stick to standard AA, BB, and then I don't know, maybe a 4K if you really are feeling snazzy, or does she have anything else that's really good for punishing?
It's all going to. Well, first thing, it's all going to depend on the range.
Okay.
What punish you can use. Like if you're in Gloomy, you're going to have more. You're going to have more options to punish, basically.
Okay.
Now, if it's a move that's -12 on block, you're going to have to use like the 4K. And if it's a move that's, let's say, -15 or something on block, then you can go to 3 AA Brave Edge and get 70 damage right off the bat for a punish.
Gotcha.
But then any move that's -18 or more, then you can use 3B for a punish.
Gotcha. So it's mostly like 3A until you can launch with 3B.
Yeah.
Okay.
3A is going to be normally your best, and A and going to be your best friends for punishes, outside of your typical AA or BB and your critical edges.
Gotcha. All right. Now, just based on the conversation that we've had thus far, it sounds like for the most part you're staying out of Jolly, and then if you get in Jolly, you're just trying to create space until you can get back into Gloomy. Now,
that's pretty much what it is.
Okay. Now, is there anything like really important in Jolly to help you out with that we haven't mentioned already?
Like I said, mainly using your brave edges.
Mm-hmm.
Like, by the way, the A plus B with Tira headbutts her own ring blade. I don't know if you noticed, there is a GI in there.
Okay.
Now, what's cool about that is, let's say you actually hit that GI. What's gonna happen is Tira, she'll actually say something like "too bad," and then she does. It looks like her 4K. She's gonna headbutt you.
Mm-hmm.
Now the cool thing is with that headbutt, even if she hits you with it, it does no damage to her, and she gets the chance still to try to get into to Gloomy.
Gotcha.
But like I said, your main ways are gonna be your taunt,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, your brave edge moves, which I can tell you a bread and butter you can do right here to give you a chance to go into from Jolly to Gloomy. Do 6-6B, and then you do 6-6B brave edge immediately afterwards. And after that move hits, you can do B plus K, which is gonna have her back turned.
Mm-hmm.
And if she stays in Jolly, for example, you can end the combo with B plus K into B. You can end the combo with. Now, if she goes into Gloomy, you can still do B plus K, which will knock him on the ground, and then you can follow up with a 4K afterwards, and then do a 6-6-6B Brave Edge if she stays in Gloomy. Like I said, all her combo variants, like I said, she has a lot of combo variants, but like I said, they're all random because of her stance changes.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to change it accordingly.
Gotcha. Now, I did want to ask, about the whole lifesteal aspect of her game, because, like, I noticed with, A plus B and moves like that, even if you whiff, it still takes damage. So I guess what are the I don't want to say counters, but like, what are you doing to try to balance that life drain that she has with your overall gameplay? Like, how do you manage that, I guess, is the question I'm asking.
Well, at times it's gonna be more of just try to stay away from certain moves that are gonna hurt you really bad,
Mm-hmm.
and you basically pay attention to situations, the amount of life you have, because I can tell you the hardest thing to do with Tira is when you have absolutely almost no life left to try and make a comeback. It's one of the hardest things to do in this game. Like I said, because a lot of her big combo stuff, she does damage to herself.
Mm-hmm.
Now they did add this after the patch, because the pre-patch version, if let's say for example Tira hit you with a 66B
Mm-hmm.
for a combo and the combo killed you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it took the last bit of my life and it killed me too. It would end at a double KO back then. Now, what's going to happen is, if, let's say, on that combo, we both ended up dying, it's no double KO. Tira actually gets the win.
Oh,
Even though we're technically both dead.
interesting. And that, I'm sorry, you said that was before patch or after patch?
Before patch, it was a double KO if that situation occurred.
Oh, okay.
Now, Tira will just get the win if we both ended up dying because of a combo I used to kill you, and it took the last bit of my life as well. Tira will get the win.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, I guess that's a buff. So
Oh, it technically is.
yeah.
Now, I don't know if you noticed about pre-patch Tira why she was so dominant.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it really was?
Mm-hmm.
She had complete control over her stance changes. That was what made her terrifying. She could get to Gloomy at ease back then. Like, those Brave Edge attacks,
Mm-hmm.
like in Jolly? If any of those hit, it was a 100% guaranteed transition to Gloomy back then.
Gotcha.
So basically, it was free combos right off the bat.
Nice. So speaking of combos, I did want to go back to something that you had mentioned earlier, because you said that she has a really strong wall combo. Now we haven't really talked about the wall too much. So like, let's say that you get that knockdown or that wall splat with like a 3 AA or something like that.
Yeah.
What's the typical follow up to that?
Okay, basically, to get a wall combo with 3 AA, basically the wall's gonna have to be to Tira's right hand side. Like, not like if you're player 1 side, the wall has to be to your right. And if you're player 2, the wall is going to be technically to player 1's left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use 3 AA Brave Edge. This is to get the most damage here. Like I said, this is why you need at least 1 full meter, what I was talking about.
Okay.
From there, you're going to do the 2-2A, which you can go the other way also with it. Once you do that, you do another 3 AA to wall splat them again. And then from there, you go 4 BBB, the just frame.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you pop them in the air, you do you do 4A, then to 4K. And then from there, you set up the tech trap with the timing on it, which, it'll combo anyway, but if your opponent doesn't, but if your opponent techs up, at that point, if they quick rise,
Mm-hmm.
it will kill them. It's a death combo.
So that death combo then, or that setup, that's as long as you have the meter for it, that's your bread and butter in that situation?
Oh yeah, on the wall, yeah, that's what I go for. If I have you on the wall.
Interesting. Okay, now let's say that you don't have the meter. How does that change it?
Well, it's still gonna do very good damage. It's gonna do probably at least a good 100 to 140, depending, if you set up the tech traps properly, and your opponent does, try to tech up out of it, because you know how it is when an opponent's getting hit a lot. They don't want to eat anymore. They want to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this is what Tira's Gloomy game is. I feel is at her strongest is those tech traps, especially when your opponent doesn't know about it. Oh man, I've beaten so many people like that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Knowledge is key, as they say. So
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, so that seems. I mean, for the most part, that seems like a pretty straightforward wall combo. I mean, it's like I know that you mentioned, you have to pay attention in case you randomly transition or something like that. But
yeah, because then you have to change the combo entirely.
yeah. So where I'm trying to remember which parts of that can she randomly transition?
Basically, after the 4 BBB, when you go into the bread and butter, she can change on the headbutt.
On the headbutt, okay.
With the 4K is where she can possibly change at.
Okay. Now let's say that she changes. What's the adjustment for that?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I forgot one thing. Where she can also change. If you happen to drop the 4 BBB just frame and you drop it on the second hit, there's a chance she can transform back to Jolly also. If you drop that.
Oh goody.
If you hit it, you're fine. She'll never change if you hit it properly. But if you drop the just frame, she can transform back.
Interesting.
So you got to be careful. You got to have good execution there.
Gotcha. All right, and now just remind me off the 4K, if she happens to transition back into Jolly, what's the adjustment on it?
Okay, if you have the meter, if you at least have half a meter, you can do 6-6B Brave Edge, which will pop them in the air again. And what you do from there, if she stays, in Jolly, you can do the combo ender, just B plus K into B, and that's pretty much it. Then your combo will be over.
Gotcha.
But if she goes into Gloomy, you do B plus K, and then you can do 666B or 666B Brave Edge if you want to use the meter.
Gotcha. Interesting. So for the most part, when you get that wall combo, as long as you're in Gloomy, then you're good. You just do the straightforward one every time, and then you just have to watch out to see if you transition, then just change it accordingly.
Yes.
Okay. So interesting. All right, now let's kind of do the the flip side of that coin. If there's no wall, now I know that you mentioned earlier 4A can be a ring out tool. What other like really good ring out options does she have?
Well, 3B actually knocks in the air a good bit. Also, if you happen to hit that, and you're good, you kind of got a good distance towards the ring ledge. 3B works pretty well also. Let's see. I'm trying to think of it. Oh yeah, her A plus G grab actually rings out too. And you can also, from a certain angle, I believe it's her left side grab, rings out also.
All right. Now her typical bread and butter, from stuff from like 3B, the 4K, obviously, that's a slam down. Can you alter that at all? Is there anything that you can throw into a juggle that might, push them or shoot them off?
Unfortunately, not off of that. That won't really knock them out of the ring or anything like that.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that would be really cool if it did. Though. I wish it did.
Yeah.
Now, Tira's critical edge can also be used as a ring out tool. Also,
Okay. Gotcha. Wow, so she doesn't really have a whole ton of ring out options then, huh? At least not from.
funny thing is, she has more ring out options in Jolly actually than in Gloomy.
uh,
She got a few more in Jolly though. The 66AA can ring out in Jolly, and then here's an interesting one: the back turn B plus KB
uh-huh.
can ring out also in Jolly.
Are there any situations outside of the 6B Brave Edge where you can toss that in? Does she have any moves that will leave her back turn? Other than that?
That will leave. Oh yes, her 4-4K
Hmm.
in Jolly can actually do that. It'll leave her back turn, and that's actually a pretty good normal to use also. Because here's the main normals you can use in Jolly. You can use the 4-4K, and the 1-1B is actually very good to use too. It's also a low,
Hmm.
and if that low hits counter hit, it'll launch your opponent into the air, and it also has a chance to put you in Gloomy. Like I said, I'm remembering all this little by little. You know.
No, yeah, that's okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like, most of the time, just from the way that you're describing her moves, that you normally stick to, that core set. But if you play a
Yeah.
character, there's obviously, the whole move list, but it's only situational stuff that you tend to use that stuff in. So I'm not surprised. I'm
Exactly.
not surprised that after a little bit, some stuff is coming back to you. Does she have any other special back turn moves other than B plus K, or is that like the only special
That's
ones?
one of the only main. That's one of the only main ones, pretty much.
Gotcha.
Now, there's something I could tell you about though.
Okay.
Remember we were talking about gloomy wall combos? I could tell you the jolly wall combos.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Go.
She actually has a few of them.
Yeah. Go for it.
You can use 3B, which is going to start the wall splat.
Hmm.
And now you have to angle this properly for it to work the way you want it to. You do 3B, and then you do 4-4K, and then you do B plus K, then B. And then you see how in her combo string it goes B plus K, B, and then you can add A plus B, where she headbutts the ring blade.
Hmm.
It can also be used as an attack, and this is how you're gonna use that. And what's gonna happen there? It'll knock your opponent onto the ground and put him in a tremendous ground stun. Now from there you have to pay attention to the state she's in.
Hmm.
Let's say she stays in Jolly, you can go do 6-6B Brave Edge and continue to follow it up from there.
Hmm.
Now now she's in Gloomy, what you can actually use 2-2B after that on that ground stun. And after 2-2B, which is the guard break move, then you actually go into 66B or 66B Brave Edge, your choice on that. And if you remember Evo, Shiny Decapone did that Jolly combo. He did that to Shinwan in Grand Finals.
I'll be completely honest with you. I don't. It's been so long since those matches happened. I do not
I know.
recall that.
I know it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I just referenced in a spot where you can see it. Like if you want to see it like in action.
Gotcha. Interesting. All right. No, it sounds like in her Jolly Wall combo, you have to pay a little bit more attention to the transition. Sounds like there's more chance for her to switch back and forth than in the
Yeah.
Gloomy combo. All right. Let's see. Oh yeah, I was just because we've talked about the meter a little bit. Her brave edges are so good. How is she on building meter? Does she tend to build it pretty quickly, or do you find that you're low on meter a lot?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. To me, it seems like it takes a while for her to build her meter up. It takes a little bit because like certain moves are gonna build meter faster than others,
Hmm.
of course. But honestly, I feel like it takes a little bit for her to actually get her meter going. Now, the main move I could say where she builds a good bit of meter off of it, if she does while rising B, and then you press K afterwards, she goes into updraft. She seems to build a good bit of meter off of that pretty quickly. Besides that, it
Hmm.
takes a while for her to actually get her meter going.
Interesting. All right, so since it sounds like a lot of a big portion of her game kind of centers around those brave edges, do you essentially just bide your time until you have the meter to really be dangerous, or how does that alter your playstyle?
Well, like I said, for like a gloomy playstyle, for example, if I want to play extremely aggressive,
Hmm.
yes, normally I'm playing a spacing game and I am biding my time till I really have that meter to really get the offense going.
Okay.
Like you see how you got the normal 6-6B Brave Edge and
Hmm.
you have 6-6-6B Brave Edge?
Hmm.
Now here's something cool about this. If you get your opponent to block a 6-6B Brave Edge, you are at like plus 10 frame advantage.
Hmm.
You have so much frame advantage. It's not even funny.
All right.
And you work your opponent's guard meter along with that as well. So basically, you can use that as a pressure tool, make your opponent, want to do something, basically
Uh-huh.
make them scared. This is why she's very dangerous when she has meter. She's one of the best characters in the game when she has her meter.
Gotcha.
Like, can you imagine being in a final round of a match and you have like 2 meters stocked in the final round with Tira?
Mhm.
That's one of the scariest things I could think of.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I am running out of questions. Are there? Is there anything that we haven't discussed? I guess I haven't. We haven't really talked a ton about her grabs. I know you mentioned, uh, like you mentioned them in sort of like Oki, or I know you mentioned the ring out, for the A grab. Um,
Yeah.
but aside from that, it looks like she has okay Oki, I guess.
Yeah.
Off of the B1,
Now,
I suppose.
yeah, because a B grab is going to knock you down. It's going to leave her closer to you. He's going to leave her really close to you. So basically, you're going to be stuck in a pure guessing game.
Hmm.
Now, here's the cool thing here. Also, what was I thinking of? Oh yeah. By the way, I don't know if you even noticed this. When she's in Jolly from Jolly to Gloomy,
Hmm.
her grabs actually do more damage than Gloomy. They add 5 damage more to the grabs when she's in Gloomy. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did not.
And there's another cool thing about Gloomy. Her movement is actually faster when she's in Gloomy compared to Jolly.
Her like actual just like sidestepping and stuff.
Yeah, it's faster.
Interesting.
Like if you're doing wave dashing, for example,
Hmm.
you could actually see it. She can do it a lot faster in Gloomy than in Jolly. You can see that.
Interesting.
Which, like, this is what I say about Tira, though. Honestly, in my opinion, when it comes to her, I say Tira is like you're playing 2 characters essentially,
Hmm.
2 completely different characters from each other when you're playing Tira. Now, I feel Jolly Tira is one of the worst characters in the game. I'm not gonna lie to you.
All right.
Now, and then Gloomy Tira is like one of the best characters in the game, hands down.
Gotcha.
Which, all in all, when you think about like that, it puts her, which is where they put her in tier lists now. They consider her mid tier,
Hmm.
which is where I put her.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like I said, or like you said, one of the stances is pretty bad, and then the other one's really good. So yeah, the logical conclusion there is that she's going to be somewhere in the middle. But on the upside, if you can manage that properly and stay in Gloomy most of the time, that that sounds like she's going to be a pretty good character overall. You just got to really keep your eye out and make sure that you understand the transitions and pay attention to when she randomly does those transitions. Um, cool. So okay. So I mean, was there anything else then that you feel is important for her that we haven't talked about?
I would say we haven't really discussed matchups too much yet, though.
Boom, we can do that.
Like,
We'll give you a warning. I mean, obviously we can't go through one by one, but because that will take forever, I'm sure, to talk about every character.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to mention, just some general matchup stuff, to pay attention to for those who are looking to pick her up.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you about, like, in regards to her tough matchups, the ones that are going to be really hard for you to work with.
Okay.
Her tough matchups, like I said, and I mentioned this at the beginning, is going to be any character that has a really long range type game. It's going to give her problems. Obviously, you see she's got a lack of range.
Mm-hmm.
So Magic is like a character against like Siegfried, Nightmare, Ivy. Oh, and her worst matchup, in my opinion, is Astroth by far. Because Astroth he has all the tools to keep her at bay. And I don't know if I even mentioned this to you. If Tira loses a certain amount of life, if she goes a little bit below half life, she does a stance change automatically by default. So let's say you were in Gloomy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Astroth hit you with one of his massive combos, his massive over half-life combos. He literally just changed your state from Gloomy to Jolly in one combo.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for example, like one of the main, special stances, updraft, for example. You can't even updraft Astroth, a good one anyways. He's going to do that stomach breaker grab right out of the air and catch you.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the range game to top it off, it's very hard for her to actually approach him unless she's in Gloomy. Because, like, at least when she's in Gloomy, she can kind of go blow for blow with him damage-wise. Because, with her better movement, she can move in and out of range and make him, whiff easier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nightmare, obviously, you know about his range game.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he has really fast, quick normals. And, you've seen really good spacing Nightmare players these days.
Mm-hmm.
Tira has a very hard time dealing with that.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, I'm going to say a really good Ivy, which, yeah, shout out to my one friend, Sane196, that I play with on PSN. Very good Ivy player, Guys been giving me problems since freaking beginning of 5 when I first met him.
Nice. All right, so it sounds like it's her main issues then are just with characters that have that range advantage then.
Normally the range advantage, and that's like a character issue.
Mm-hmm.
Now one other issue she can have is if you're fighting a character, let's say like Laisha. You know how Laisha is very safe on her strings unless you just guard them.
Mm-hmm.
Now that comes down to the player though. That's not really the character. That's the player. If the player can just guard that, then Tira can win that matchup pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's say you're not good at just guarding. Laisha is going to give you a heck of a time just trying to punish her for everything she does. You're going to sit there blocking all day.
Mm-hmm.
And then Natsu can be the same thing when you're in the Jolly state. Because Natsu is literally going to bully you and run all over you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Hawkeye did it to me numerous times I've played him,
Yeah.
But the only way I compete with him is once I get into the Gloomy state. So at least that way, I get some moves that actually, have tech crouch on them. I could duck under some of, Natsu's really fast high normals.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, I don't know if I even mentioned it. 3B actually has tech crouch on it. It'll duck on their highs.
Oh, nice.
That's another good use for it. Like if you have somebody that's spamming high horizontals all day, you can just throw that out there. You'll catch them.
Nice. All right, and any other notable matchups?
I'm gonna tell you Pyrrha. You have to play that matchup. Pyrrha Omega, basically the Greeks.
Gotcha.
You gotta play the matchups very carefully with them. Because they have those quick punishing moves, the stab, shield bash, you know all about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Problem is, like mainly, and this, like I said, this goes back to even in the gloomy state. If you're not if you're not careful with the moves you're pulling, you're basically going to give those Greeks. You're going to give them free damage every time if you're not careful with what you use and how you use it.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I can only imagine that Jolly is pretty much out of the question since she's so punishable.
Like you can play in Jolly, your move set is going to be extremely limited.
Gotcha.
And you really have to mix in your tools properly, to make your opponent really guess, like in order for them to work properly, because otherwise you're going to get punished out of everything.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right then. Anything else? I guess.
That's all I can really think of right now.
All right. So I guess at this point, what it sounds like you're a hardcore character specialist. So how do you feel about her so far? Obviously we went through a big patch, but I mean, do you like the way that she plays now, or what would you like? How do you view her?
Actually, I really enjoy the way she plays now, because honestly, I think like in this game she's way better than she was in 4. I can tell you that right off the bat. In my opinion, the Jolly state was actually better in 4 than than the Gloomy was. Because honestly, you see, like one of the ways I rate characters too when I play, I go by risk reward factor at the same time. Like for example, while the Jolly state isn't considered that good, obviously you see she has a lot of punishable moves in Jolly on block, which to me that's like high risk, and it's like you see the damage output in Jolly isn't very high, so I'm like low to moderate reward. That's not too good, But then you look at the Gloomy, I say about a moderate risk in Gloomy, but then you see the reward, it's extremely high in Gloomy when she hits you. She's ridiculously high damage output in Gloomy, which, unlike in 4, it was like you were putting out as much damage in Gloomy as you were dishing to yourself, it seemed, in Soul Calibur 4. That the only way you really got damage in Gloomy, you needed the tech traps in Soul Calibur 4. It was the only way. Otherwise, you weren't doing much of anything.
Interesting. Well, I mean it's a good thing that they're improving her, and making her fun for you to play. Now, are there any I guess warning for people who are like maybe having trouble picking her up or want to pick her up? Are there any like general advice or tips that you might give them?
Well, honestly, I'm going to tell you is that playing Tira is going to take a lot of time and a lot of dedication to, just playing the game and just, sticking with her all the way. Because honestly, like I said, she's one of those characters that because of the randomness that she has, it's going to force you to require, you got to pay attention a lot when you play, and it's going to force you to have, good execution in certain spots. And like I said, how she plays in Jolly, you're going to be forced to have very good spacing, very good fundamentals of the game to really be good with her. So pretty much, like, if you're a good Tira player, like, it's really going to show how good you are at this game, in my opinion. Because she requires a lot of fundamentals.
Gotcha. Excellent. Well, I mean, if that's really all that I got for the character discussion. So for the last little bit of these episodes, what I do like to do is sort of have a rant section. So yeah. I don't know if you were prepared for it at all, but I want to know what makes. I mean, your name implies that you're mad at something. So I mean, tell us, what makes you mad. Get on your soapbox and tell everybody what's up.
What makes me angry? Let's see. If there's one character I can say that really makes me angry, it's that freaking guy, that has, what's his face? Voldo. I can't stand it. Oh my goodness. That is my kryptonite, man.
Man, we just did the Voldo podcast too, not too long.
That is my kryptonite, man. The last 2 majors I traveled to for this game, That's the character that eliminated me, Voldo. Why? Because that is just one of those characters that literally he doesn't have to be better than you to beat you. All it is, if you're having a bad day guessing, he wins. You know? I'm serious. That's stupid.
Yeah, he's definitely a goofy character, that's for sure.
Oh,
No doubt at all.
don't even get me started on Viola. don't even get me started on that. Oh,
Okay.
freaking Lost Providence, all the times playing him. Oh, goodness.
Love them cheapness, them cheap gimmicks.
Junk is extra cheap.
Extra cheap. Funny. Well, that's that's all I got, dude. So at the end of the podcast, I do like to give it over to my guests, in case you have any shout outs or if you want to promo something or put something out there, whatever. You got the open mic, dude. So whatever you want to say.
All right. Well, everybody, I want to thank y'all for having me here tonight. At least I spread good word about Tira. Even though it's been a little bit since I've been on Caliber, I'm sure you guys, if you guys been keeping track of me, you probably heard what I've been doing in Injustice. That's what I've been playing nowadays. 2 top 8s, the last 2 majors I went to, and I use Harley Quinn in that game, by the way.
No Superman, Tier Horan, right?
I know, right? No surprise, right? I'm a Harley Quinn player in that game.
Yeah.
Considering I'm a hero.
Absolutely.
But now, hopefully at NEC, all you guys, I'm coming back to Caliber, and I hope y'all gonna be ready for some Tira, because I'm gonna be ready for y'all.
Nice. Yeah, I hope. Obviously the new Caliber game that's coming out. It's it's not the verses that we're normally used to, but the hope, of course, is that it'll still get people a little interested back in TV or SC5. So.
Yeah, me too.
We'll see what happens, I guess. But we do have some majors coming up, of course, and then once the new year hits, it's going to be Evo season. So it's that time. It's going to be here pretty quick. So pretty excited for that. And I do want to let everybody know. I only have 3 characters left on the list here. Let me pull it up. Just kind of to give everybody a look into the crystal ball. So not including Tira, there are 3 characters left, Hildy, Alpha P, and then Dampierre. So very close to the end of all these character-specific podcasts. My goal next week, I'll probably just do my normal week off between the podcasts. However, I do want to try to kind of race to the finish here. So don't be surprised at all if it's like back to back to back weeks. If I can manage it, if I can get the people to schedule that and make it happen. That expect those to come out in pretty short order, because I'm just like with everybody else. I'm sure I'm going to be really busy once Thanksgiving and the holiday season starts up. So want to try to get those out so we don't have these huge long month delays between them. And then after that, like I've said before, not sure where the podcast is going to go. I'll probably take a little break from it for a while and see if I can come up with anything awesome to do episodes on. But just kind of a look into the future to let everybody know what's going on and what to expect. And as usual, I don't know which order we'll go in with those characters, but yeah, that's what it's looking at. So for you, Saltface, thanks for coming on, just sharing some knowledge, spreading the Tira love. And yeah, that's all I got. So thank you everyone for listening. And, as always, if you have any questions, comments, put it in the forum, hit me up, whatever. And we will catch you guys next time. Have a good one.